Hey, Travox here. Classic versions of retro gaming consoles are nothing new, with Nintendo being one of the first to popularise it with the NES Classic Edition and Super NES Classic consoles, and Nintendo has done a good job at it, with both consoles being well received by the masses. On the other hand, you got Sony with the PlayStation Classic, which received heavy criticism for its poor game library. We already know the reason why, but in this video, we'll be looking at possibly one of the worst classic retro gaming consoles to have ever been released. While Sega officially licensed this console, they didn't even make this console. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Sega Mega Drive Classic, made by AtGames. For some context, AtGames now produce pinball machines and arcade machines, but a few years back they were producing licensed consoles such as classic versions of the Atari and of course the Mega Drive. They've received heavy criticism for their poor quality and poor emulation. The one I have here is an 18:1 version released in 2017. There was also another variant of this console which included wireless controllers, but the one I have does not. As if using dodgy infrared controllers would make the gaming experience on this console more sufferable. Comparing the AtGames Mega Drive with other retro classic consoles such as the NES Classics, they failed to replicate the iconic look of the Sega Mega Drive. Although they didn't do a bad job at replicating the controller, opting to replicate the 6-button version of the Sega Mega Drive controller. While the controller itself doesn't feel that bad to use, the buttons on them do feel a bit clunky. But I've definitely had worse feeling controllers than this one. The console has a decent game library. Half of these games are actually Sega Mega Drive classics such as Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, Vector Man, and yes, Sonic. But the other half are less exciting games, presumably developed by AtGames themselves. Many of them are about as boring as it gets. One nice feature that this console has is that it has a cartridge slot, meaning that beyond the 80 built-in games, you could play most, if not all of the Mega Drive game library on this little console. And that is where the positives end. And oh boy, is there a lot of negatives. First off, the sound emulation on this is terrible. The audio is slowed down and quite distorted. Here's an example of Sonic the Hedgehog on the AtGames Mega Drive. And here's what the original soundtrack is meant to sound like. However, that's the tamest example of this console's shitty sound emulation. The worst example is in Sonic Spinball. When you go into the settings, this is what it's meant to sound like. And here is the AtGames Mega Drive.
What the fuck?
Speaking of slowed down, some games run at a slightly lower frame rate than native hardware, or heck, even Mega Drive emulators you can get on your phone or PC. At times, it makes the gameplay feel more sluggish than it should be. Another issue that I had with this console is that sometimes it wouldn't read cartridges properly. Once the game is put in and you turn on the console, about a quarter of the time you are greeted with a black screen and that's it.
There it is. Won't even read it.
Albeit this issue is quite minuscule.
Now, based on all the issues that I've discussed about this console, I have a high suspicion that AtGames made this console as cheaply as they possibly could, just so they can milk the hell out of the Sega brand. I just want to have a look at the inside of this.
Now hopefully this thing will be easy enough to put back together. Okay, that just lifts up and
Yeah, that is kind of what I thought.
so that's the cartridge slot right there. And then you've got your power, your composite ports. Got this. Oh, that's soldered right onto the motherboard. That can't be replaced at all.
So yeah, that's literally the entire console. Exactly what I thought of. Just a couple of capacitors, a big cartridge slot. I think that and that is just the whole console. everything else is either for video power or the controller ports.
And there you have it. Possibly one of the worst video game consoles I own in my collection. This thing was bad when it came out in 2017, and it's no surprise that it has aged very poorly. In 2026, there's no point in buying this at Games Mega Drive. Just get the real thing, or even one of those retro gaming sticks that you see on AliExpress. That'll give you a much better experience than this piece of shit console. And if you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like, and if you're unfortunate enough to have owned this console, tell me your thoughts about it in the comments section below. But that's enough from me. I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace!